Pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Lois Tiley. Here. Diana Coots.
Here.
Christine Newman.
Here.
Richard Horner.
Here.
Jim McPhail.
Here.
Diane Dennis.
Here.
Sarah Tiley.
Here.
Do we have any adjustments to the agenda as presented?
No, sir.
Do I hear a motion to accept it as, or approve it?
I'll make a motion. I'll support.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any public announcements or public comments? Yes, sir.
We're already at that point?
Come up front and you got 3 minutes.
That's quick.
Time's up. No.
Wow, 3 minutes is quick.
And introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Krasaniak, and I'm here on behalf of the St. Charles Youth Baseball and Softball Association. I'm the vice president. There's a good, solid core group of people that are working on the baseball and softball in town right now. And just the reason that kind of piqued my interest to stop in tonight was there was some question on that I noticed in like the Citizen about like some of the improvements that were made in the park and some noticing of what was going on there. And so I just wanted to just talk about what we've done as the baseball and softball organization and what and what we've worked with the village on as well. So a couple things, and I know I've worked with Don and Mr. Lane on a few things. We've met a couple times. So the Baseball Association last few years has been doing fundraising. Each year we collect donations for sponsors throughout the community and businesses. And then we also have been working with the millionaire poker parties as fundraising. And then we've also had just some private donors. Each year in mid-April, we get together and we have like the park cleanup day, and we go to the park and we get as many volunteers and parents and coaches and stuff as we can to kind of clean the fields up. So we'll rake the leaves and get the dugouts cleaned up and all set up. And so some of those things that we did this year was we painted there's 3 signs. There's field 1, 2, and 3. We bought signs to identify the fields for when we make schedules, and those are hanging on the field. So the first field as you enter the park, the softball field. Last year, we as the Baseball Association replaced those dugouts. So the metal dugouts that were there on steel poles, they were pretty narrow and it was kind of tough to use. And so we ended up taking those down, adding about 3 foot of concrete and building those new dugouts. That was all funded by the Baseball Association, the Baseball and Softball Association. So we funded that. And when we put the roofing on, we put in that roll. I don't know, it's like a asphalt roll, and but it's not the best roof, but it's good. And we talked with Mr. Lane about there was a proposal out there for I guess the pavilions, and we had mentioned hey, it'd look nice to we talked about colors and how we should do this or something. And so anyway, we talked with him a little bit, and so I wanted to follow up with you guys. He had talked about trying to get that rolled into a bid for when the pavilions were done to get the dugouts to match. And so that's something now if there's a change in who's in charge, and so I just wanted that to be noted that's where that kind of came from. Also this year, we had one family came back after park cleanup day, and behind the dugouts where the water fountains are, they donated and then built the little catch basins for so that way when the kids are drinking water and it's splashing in the sand, it's not getting them all muddy, and so they're kind of like catch basins and that. But that was a private donor had done that for us. The village supplied yellow paint for us when we were painting the back of the dugouts, but the village supplied paint for the fall poles, those bright yellow poles. On all the fields, we added bat stands. So instead of the kids hanging the bats up against the fence or leaning them against the fence, there's aluminum frame, bat stands with wood tops to hang the bats, and it just kind of keeps the dugouts a little bit cleaner, but we added those this year. The two bleachers that are aluminum, the Baseball Association, largely through a couple donors, and then our fundraising paid for those bleachers, and then we built those and installed those. The village this year, we were talking about what's a good solution as far as like underneath, and we talked about putting cement under them, putting a weed barrier, doing something just to make it more user friendly. And talking with Matt and Don, we were able to, the solution we kind of come up with was to put the Stonecrete in there, and it's made a nice difference. Instead of having the weeds and stuff, so the Stonecrete underneath the bleachers and over by the concession stand, the village provided that, and it's really great. It was, we got a lot of compliments, and it's been really good, so thanks for that. Over by, the village also, on our behalf, replaced some of the boards that were on the older wood bleachers there that were getting kind of rough, so those got replaced, and so we're thankful for that. The renovated concession stand, that most of the labor for that was provided by the Baseball Association, and then working with the village, I believe paid for the new stainless steel sink in there, as well as the hot water heater. And then on that cleanup day, we worked with the health department on what we needed to have done there, and we painted the whole inside of the concession stand area. We added some electrical, some lighting in there. It was pretty dim, and then we had we put new countertops in and just kind of did a total renovation there, along with purchasing some like stuff to serve hot food through the health department. So we added like a popcorn machine, and there's a fridge in there, and then like cheese warmers and just some stuff to serve hot food. And then also, thanks to the village for, we were able to use the pool house this year. We've had a little logistics with getting our umpires their umpire gear and their counters and just the equipment for that. And so the village let us use one of the, like, I don't know, I guess it was one of the closets or something on the pool house. And so we used that during the season this year. But I just wanted to, I just showed there was some interest in some of the renovations that were made in the park, and I just wanted to kind of, catch you up on, add to that conversation, if it's helpful at all. And I'm probably at my 3 minutes, but if you guys have any questions.
The roof,
What's
on
that?
the roof on the dugouts?
Yep.
You're looking to have them match the pavilion? Is that the plan?
That's what our hope was. When we were in the process of renovating it, like the last part for us was to put the roof on. And then there was conversations, we heard that there was bids going out to put on the pavilions. And so we were kind of talking about colors, like, hey, if you're gonna have that done, what color shingles should we get for these roofs, or how do you want to go about that? And then the conversation kind of got to the point of like, my understanding was that it was gonna be tried to be rolled into that bid, to get whatever's done on the pavilions to be also done on the dugout, so it just tied and matched together, rather than us just choose like, hey, we go with this color and then it clashes or something, just to kind of make it uniform.
Okay.
Do you remember us talking?
Yeah,
about
that's
that?
why I was,
Well, they said what he had planned is he would put it out for bid, and if it came in less than what he had budgeted,
yeah.
they would get extra for the roofs on the dugouts to match the roof. So it depends on how those bids come in.
Okay, yeah, I just
think
wanted to
that's
continue
what
that
he had
conversation.
planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to continue that.
Mhm.
But yeah, our goal as the Baseball Association is just to have it a better user-friendly experience for just everybody that comes to
Mhm.
town, and we joined a new league, and just to kind of have a better facility. And so like the Stonecrete under the bleachers keeps away the weeds, and that makes it a lot better. The aluminum bleachers makes it better. It's just starting to make a difference. And it's, if people come in from out of town, and that's the one thing they see is that beautiful park, try to make it as good as we can.
I think
Well,
you did a
and
good
we
job.
appreciate everything you've done. And the reason those questions come up is we notice them in our bills and we don't exactly know what they're for. So we question those bills, and that's how we
Sure.
find out what's been going on in the park.
Sure.
So that's why it gets in the minutes.
Yeah.
So,
And we're happy to work with, with obviously the council, with you guys, with, whoever the new, director in charge is, or, city manager, and then also, we wouldn't mind, I don't know how to go about doing it, but I think there's interest amongst our group about getting, somebody on like the Parks and Rec board, and being a part of that, so we can be, I don't know, have like the official voice or the right venue, or talking to the right people consistently.
They have an opening.
So, all right, so
They
would like to,
do, they
you
do,
know,
they have an opening.
all right,
The
so.
Parks and Rec Board has an opening, do you have,
Want to put your name down?
Sure, well, there's several people on the board. I'm happy to put it down, but I know that there's other people have already mentioned that too, so I'll follow up with them, but we'd be happy to get one of our names on it for sure.
Contact Jenny Ann.
Okay, all right, cool. All right,
They need to write a letter of intent and give it to the village manager.
does it need to be from a specific area?
Oh, that's right, it would be somebody in St. Charles then, wouldn't it? It'd have to be a St. Charles resident.
Well, not St. Charles, Brant, it depends on who
But they would be
left.
replacing Diane, and she was.
It would be the village.
Oh, so it'd be the village, okay,
Yeah.
somebody within the village.
all right, well, there's probably 4 or 5 of us out of the
Yeah.
10 of us in the village, so.
Okay.
That shouldn't be a problem. Cool, thanks for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anything else? Took a little bit longer than 3 minutes.
I know, I'm sorry, I apologize, everybody.
Any other discussion? Comments? If not, move on. Spicer Engineering Group, next on the list.
Well, hello.
Hi, John.
Just start your clock.
I have 3 minutes.
No,
You have a copy of my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Some highlights, the wastewater asset management plan, we're still working on that. That needs to be, a certificate of completedness needs to be submitted in November 2019. So over the next few months, we need to be wrapping up the wastewater asset management plan and getting things in place. The stormwater asset management plan, again, a certification of completedness needs to be submitted again November of this year. That's for the SAW grant projects. Something that we had talked about before with the stormwater asset management plan is the tile drain over on Chestnut Street. That is a county drain. It's got the FEMA pump station on it. If you did want to move forward with a project, the proper thing to do would be to petition the county drain commissioner to get that county drain work fixed. So I did include something in my report about that, and I'm kind of looking for direction from you on how you'd like to proceed. If you want us to set up a meeting with the drain commissioner to kind of get the ball rolling, or what your wishes are.
if we go to the county
Mhm.
and they do it, do they then assess the people that use it?
It would be, my understanding is it would be assessed to the people in that drainage district. That is how the county drain code works.
And they draw their own district?
And they draw their own district. The county drain commissioner draws the district. That is correct.
Just curious.
Yep.
So that's
You think
us
he'd come to a
here, or
meeting and
the
talk
people
about it
or-
with us?
I think he'd absolutely come to a meeting. I don't see an issue with that at all.
I was just curious, if they do anything with that, is that gonna help our problem down Chestnut Street?
It would help.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
But it's
why I
just
don't
that-
go.
It's just that the people on it would be the ones that would be assessed for
It's
it.
like getting up in the morning and
Yeah.
stepping
Do
into
we then
4
own
inches of
part of
water.
it too, the
And
village?
there's
Yeah.
a known problem out
Village,
there.
it-
And
Is it
it's
like
on
half and
county
half?
drain.
I don't think it.
Okay. So the county pays some? Or do they just not pay any, and it's the village and the homeowners?
If the county has assets in the drainage district, they would be assessed like everybody else. That's my understanding.
That's why I think you ought to come to a meeting and.
Right,
So it goes to the property
Yeah.
owner.
I think the right
Yeah.
thing to do would just be to have an informational meeting and just talk about it. You know, I'm not an expert in the drain code. I've got other people in our office that do the drain work
Okay.
and know it much better than me, but,
I've never worked with them before,
Yeah.
so.
We need to do
Just
that
curious.
then.
yep. So if that's your wish, I could, set up a meeting with the drain commissioner, and we could, get something, at least
Just to
get
tell
the
us how
ball
it
rolling.
works.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Okay.
Maybe shoot for the August meeting?
Sure. Do you wanna have it at a council meeting, or do you want?
Yeah.
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 Yep.
If
Okay.
you would.
Not a problem. I'll get a hold of it and get it this week. Water system asset management plan, we are still working on that. Been working with Don, trying to develop, an improvement scheme project. We developed a two-phase approach based on, the number of water main breaks, historical water main breaks that have happened in the village. And, Don and the DPW guys are looking through that to make sure we have the right streets, the right blocks, make sure that we get to the worst areas first. So I don't have a list of projects right now, but we are working on that to get a, you know, a future improvement project for the water system.
I thought we were doing something with that tonight.
What we're looking at,
No.
what we're looking at doing tonight is giving us approval to approach USDA and start the rural development funding application.
Because we haven't picked a scenario yet, right?
Right, we haven't done that, and we don't
Okay.
need to do that to get the ball rolling on the USDA
Okay.
application.
The other is what I talked about at the last meeting on the couple of areas where we're having all the breaks of
Yep.
getting something put
Right.
together so we can get a project going there.
Over by the
Fulton Street,
old school.
before the rural development stuff.
Streets asset management, we're still working on that report. That should be coming up soon. I would guess in the next few months, we'd have something more to present to you. The wastewater lagoon permit assistance, I do have a fresh update on that you don't have. The new permit was put out for public notice by, Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy on 7/4/19, and the public notice period ends 7/8/2019, 7/18/2019. And the permit department is on schedule to have the new permit issued by fall 2019.
That's the right permit.
That is the correct permit with the right numbers in there.
Okay,
So they are on track to issue that.
thank you.
Yep. Downtown Streetscape Improvements Project, that grant application was not awarded. That was a competitive grant application. They were overwhelmed with applications and the village did not get awarded that, so, I think that project's dead until you tell us to bring it back up. So, we'll continue to look for grant opportunities, you know, for something with that. Water system improvements, again, you know, talking about that a little bit, you know, we do have a letter agreement tonight to, get the rural development application going. We do plan on teaming with, the Rural Communities Assistance Program, RCAP, who offers free assistance to small rural communities, you know, helping with some of those application process, the environmental review, the SHPO review and those kinds of things. So we're trying to leverage outside free help to help the village. And we're focusing on, you know, a fairly large project, you know, for phase one, for 2022, 2023 construction sometime in that area. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just get as much free stuff as you can.
That's absolutely.
We need that.
We're trying our best.
I heard of another one, Land and Water Fund, set up by the federal government for offshore oil welling and stuff. But the money from that goes into grants. I think it's 60 to 40% each year goes for grants to rural communities for like riverbank improvements, boat launches.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard anything on that before?
I don't know if it's that particular fund, but there are a lot of,
I don't know if it's flipped into
opportunities.
other ones,
Yep.
other funds, but.
For water system funding, there isn't a lot out there. You know, at the state level, there's the Drinking Water Revolving Fund, which is a low-interest loan from the state. USDA Rural Development is a federal program that offers low-interest loans and a chance at a grant. So that's why we're kind of, and also 40-year payback period. So that's what makes that one attractive.
He's looking for a boat launch.
Yeah.
Boat launch?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find anything for a boat launch.
There are opportunities.
And I just heard of that one.
There are
and
opportunities.
That's what they spend their money on, is anything to do within floodplains, water systems. And I think it's Land and Water Fund is
Yep.
what it is, and it's money based on the offshore
Yep.
drilling wells.
Yep.
The money that they bring in.
Yep. I know there are opportunities for, you know, recreation grants, you know, whether it's a boat launch or like you see a lot of kayak canoe launches for,
Yes.
That's what we were kind of
people
looking
with
at.
disabilities,
Yeah.
things like that. Let me look into that and I can report back to you.
Yeah, anything that would be ADA or,
Yep.
You can't get a
you know,
fishing boat.
accessible, that's what we want.
Okay, we can certainly look into that because, there are grants out there,
Yeah.
Get out.
so.
You
Thank
think
you.
that's in your park plan?
I think we do have that.
The
in there.
lunches are in the,
Yeah.
at the park down here,
Yep.
on the other side,
In Lumberjack?
in Lumberjack Park.
Okay, we will definitely look for grant opportunities, and I'll get with Jen to get a copy of your recreation plan.
Yeah, I'll email it to you.
Perfect.
There's a couple of other things that Don and I suggested John look at with the first phase of the rural development loan grant. And that's we're scheduled for an inspection on the water tower. If we have to do work, it'd be good to roll that into it.
Okay,
And then I assume at some point you want something done with the old water tower,
oh no, we're just letting it sit there.
and that'd be a good
Right.
thing.
Wasn't that
Yeah,
neat?
I don't wanna do nothing with it yet.
No.
They said it's still in good
It's
shape.
supposed to be an observation deck
Yeah.
someday.
Yeah,
But the
don't
the last
start me on
inspection
that.
on the last
That'll be an
inspection on the new
example.
water tower
Not my
came out
time.
really good, right?
Oh, the other tower came out perfect last
Yeah.
time, we didn't have to do anything to it.
That came out
So,
really good.
What was that, about 5? Oh, well,
And hopefully it will again, but if we thought we ought to
Yeah.
do,
Just in
it's
case.
scheduled and we might as well do it now
It's getting
before
older.
that, and if we have to do
Mhm.
something.
Water tower should be inspected every 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, and
Good
we're
idea.
scheduled for 5 years, so. But the old tower is something you ought to think about. If you wanna keep it, fine, but if you ever want it down, that'd be a good time to roll it in.
I don't think
I
we
don't
want it
know
down.
what people would think if we took it down.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
That's part of the old
uh,
pictures with the trains
St.
and
Charles
stuff.
thing, you know, you
Yeah.
come in from west and it's, you see the water tower.
Be nice if we
right
could
away.
roll a paint job into it.
There's no
That'd
reason
put
to
longer
paint it
legs
if you
than the
don't
other one,
use
so when we
it.
fly over, we know it's St. Charles.
Just
Yeah.
looks nice.
Can't tell it's St. Charles here
If
without
it's
that tower.
painted and kept up nice now. I know
We're not
that if we
doing
could
that.
get some help,
You gonna paint
it's
it?
not anything.
Did you?
If we could
Well,
roll a paint
we can
job
paint
into
it.
the other one, into that.
You said you had plans for?
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yes, there
I'm
are,
sure
there's
there
other
are.
plans.
Yeah,
Oh, that
observation
was
deck,
10
yeah.
years ago. It's an observation deck.
Yep.
Somebody drew a
You
plan.
can see the whole flats from there.
Somebody drew up plans, but that just to me is the scariest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
It looks
it's
like
climate.
kids jumping off there.
Big bus on that.
I just don't
You know
Oh, yeah.
what?
It was pretty
We're
bad.
old.
I know, but oh
That was
my
Tom
goodness.
Darwin's.
Yeah, I think that would be a very nice idea myself.
Yeah, we wanna
If
keep
the funds
that.
were there.
We wanna keep it in as long as we can. So, yeah, paint job, anything like that, if we could roll that
We can
into
roll a
it.
paint job in.
But,
Yeah, yeah, I don't know, but.
Vultures
Well,
sat on it.
when was the last
Probably
every
the council
morning.
could just go down there and paint it some night.
When was
Sure,
the last
I'll-
time the old
Absolutely,
tower was
down.
inspected?
I don't know.
Let me up there.
It might not be a bad idea to have the whole tower inspected, I mean, not for use with water, but just structurally.
Inspected.
That's what I was
To get
wondering,
an
is it
opinion.
safe to?
What if we get a negative?
Oh, God.
Well,
No.
yeah, that's a possibility. And the two companies that come to mind are Dixon and Nelson. They're the two tank companies who would be doing your potable water tower. And they would probably be the ones who would also inspect the whole tower.
Yeah, but for how much?
It's not potable, so you don't have to drain it. I would think it'd be, $1,500, $2,000, something like that. Be worth getting a price from them anyways.
Just think about
so you
that,
have
Jim,
it.
what if it
Price.
fails, and then what?
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, a price doesn't hurt anything, we can
Oh, I
get a
know,
price,
but I
you know.
mean, what
Yeah.
if you have it inspected and it fails, then what are you gonna do?
You gotta
Yeah,
figure out a way
What
to-
if,
yeah.
what if
Our
you,
landmark
Yeah,
is
good
going.
point, good
what if you
point.
don't have it inspected and it fails?
I was
You mean like
thinking
tips
that one.
over?
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
That's
Yeah.
worse.
Cause we are liable regardless.
Right. So, it's just something to think about. If you're gonna have somebody coming to town to inspect the other tower, it wouldn't take much to get them over to look at the other one.
All right.
So, just something to think about.
Yeah.
My 3 minutes up?
No, go ahead.
Why, are you taking it out of
I'm
there?
I'm done, I'm just
Okay.
answering questions.
You guys are a tremendous resource for us, you really are.
Well, we appreciate that. Like working here.
I'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay.
Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that's what you've been waiting for.
should have built this in 3 days.
Okay. Any more comments? No. On on the Spicer report? Okay, let's move on to council minutes approval. The one for the 12th, June 12th.
I make a motion, we approve minutes of June 12th as presented.
Support?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. June 26th. Any questions? If not, a motion to accept it?
I'll make a motion.
Support?
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are accepted. Communications. Saginaw County Parks and Recreation Commission, laying the park schedule. Any questions or further
Do we have
information other
copies
than
of
what we
this
have?
in the office at all? Okay, so if anybody wanted to pick it up, it's for Saginaw County Parks activities that people and their children might be interested in.
We're on it.
Yeah, I know, but I mean the whole thing, you know, so
Mhm.
somebody could come in and pick up the,
Oh, yeah, we can always make a copy.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Any other questions, comments? Act 51, Section 10K, non-compliance.
That was a non-compliance report that we received, and we have met with Spicer, and they're working up a cost that would help us put that together.
And it needs to be answered by when?
I don't remember, September, I believe.
Okay.
Soon.
well, do I understand that the amount is like $2,700?
It's minor, but it rolls every 10 years.
Right,
So if we could do that 2,000, or it could be 5,000 next year, depending on what we did.
already. But we need to
Because the
know.
last,
We
the
need
last
down
few
to-
years, I don't think we've done anything, so as it rolls every 10 years, it's gonna get bigger, probably.
You know, to spend more.
Huh?
Then you have to spend more on. one,
Right,
so.
yeah, I do understand. So you guys are working on that one
Yes.
too then, okay.
Any other questions? You got your review magazine?
What's the non-motorized compliance?
That's what it was,
Okay. They go together.
yeah.
It is not.
Okay. Fine.
Moving on to payment of claims. Diane?
Question.
Anyone have any questions? Diana and I always do.
Yeah, I marked up some stuff.
Uh-huh.
You're right.
Got it.
Okay, page 4 of 8, down at the very bottom, Everett's excavating for water main repair. So what did they do for us?
When we had to break that Fulton, right, excavator out for 2 days.
So that, okay, was special equipment then? Okay,
Isn't that when they helped us on that broken water main?
They're out there for 2 full days plus.
that was a mess over there.
Any other questions?
Yeah, page 6, the second item, live scan fingerprinting to the sheriff's department?
The police department, we had, everybody that has access to the building had to go down and get, fingerprinted for part of their, I think it was MCOs or lien? For what? The lien audit, so all the village employees had to go down and get, fingerprinted at the sheriff's department.
Wow.
What's the fingerprinting then in the petty cash?
That was for Marguerite and I for, reimbursement for mileage, because we can't drive the company vehicle, so we had to go, instead of shutting the office down, I drove, she went, and then vice versa. So that was 2 vehicles going back and forth.
Then on the Municipal Code Corporation, what is this administrative support fee?
They charge us a fee every year to use the municipal, for them to store it online. It's an administrative fee that we have to pay every year.
Not
Bit
real
like a
happy with
cloud.
that group, I'll tell you.
Basically, yeah.
Basically a municipal cloud.
Yep, and so it's online too, so people can
Sure.
look at it from the website.
On page 7, the traffic signal maintenance, it's like the 4th item from the top. Why do we pay that? Isn't that a state traffic signal?
2 roads are state and 2 are local.
Oh, so, all right, so that's our fee because we have local street, oh, for Pete's sake, okay.
Van Scoten only charges, he only sends us the bill like, what, once a year?
Yeah, there was huge amounts for him.
Matt and,
Well, it's January through, no, December, no,
November through May, right here. John and Matt kept trying to call him, and then he must have realized that he hadn't billed us, so then he sent a big envelope with all that billing.
Yeah, well, you might wanna remind him that that puts part of it into last year and part of it into this year.
I did talk with Darcy and she was okay with it, cause
Okay.
it was just small amounts.
Yeah, okay.
If there are no other questions, I make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $220,546.31.
Support?
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. New business. We're here to accept the peerless bids for environmental cleanup of the village hall.
I read that thing word for word, and I'll tell you what, you could exactly say for that contract is they're going to do the work and we agree to pay for it.
Exactly.
That's just,
Regardless.
could have been a little paragraph right there, right?
Any specific questions on it?
Well, what did we budget for that?
We
You
had
know?
100,000.
150.
100,000?
Well, 100,000 from local and 50 in the grant.
Okay, so that's where you got the 55 extra for the parking lot if we need.
Not 55.
40.
45?
We're down to, I think got 38 for the left in the grant, and then, what was it, 5,000 here?
Okay,
43 roughly.
okay.
That's assuming no extras on the project.
Are you going to require that they are out here when you're here? Is somebody, or is Don gonna be in charge, you know, somebody from the village going to be here when they're doing all this stuff?
I would think they would provide that.
They'll provide inspections, we'll both keep an eye on it for sure. We don't want that into the building falling down on the chief.
I know, it said,
I bet he'll pay attention.
I read in there that it's projected to be 6 days, cause I was thinking, how long is that big, huge hole going to stay out there? You know, that's a little scary, that. But it did say in there, they projected 6 days. Does that sound feasible to you, Don?
I'm sure they're gonna fence it off too, it's not gonna be like that.
Yeah.
Sure, it depends on what they find and.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may have to-
They've done a lot of sampling,
have to
so
go
they got a
first.
good idea, but you never know till you get down there exactly
Right.
what you're gonna find either, but,
I'd be surprised.
AKT Peerless is the contractor,
Right.
and these guys are this company's
Sub- right.
subbing with them, so AKT Peerless is responsible, and they're gonna be out there making sure it gets done right.
No subcontractors all over.
Who's the sub?
Deerline?
Jay and something.
No, Beer Line didn't get it.
No, it's,
So what is this one then?
The one in Bay City.
Job Site Services is based.
Yeah.
Really?
Is there any action we gotta take on this, Dennis?
Huh?
Any action we have to take on that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to accept it.
Yeah.
Close the page. That it?
Yeah. We have to authorize Dennis to
Accept
sign
it right
it.
here, yeah.
Oh,
How convenient.
all right.
I know how much it-
Yeah, I know.
Yep, yep.
If you go to page 4,
Oh, four?
that's the breakdown
Oh, yeah.
of what AKT Peerless is doing and what the company's doing. And if you'll notice that excavation, disposal, and restoration is different than what the bid was. That's because they put a percentage for being the contractor on, so
That's
7%.
50. I thought it was 15. Really?
That's why it's 81 instead of 75. I couldn't make that math work out for nothing, so
No.
phone
You
call
called
told me.
them.
Yes, I did.
Now, who gets the extra money?
Peerless.
Really? I see that they
Oh, yeah.
said 15.
For
Yeah, but
running the
they've done enough already.
it's their contract and they're responsible, so.
Okay.
They get a percentage on it. But that'll get the project going, starting tomorrow.
Okay, we need to do that. So
Yeah.
we need
Any
to
other
have what?
questions?
Nope.
So we need
Do
to.
I hear a
It is what it
motion?
is.
So wait a minute, I make a motion that we approve the contract with AKT Peerless and, appoint Dennis Collison to sign the contract,
I'll second.
to make it,
Support?
Jim did.
Jim did.
Roll call?
Lois Tiley,
Yes.
Diana Coots,
Yes.
Christine Newman.
Yes.
Richard Horner,
Yes.
Jim McPhail.
Yes.
Diane Dennis, and
Yes.
Sarah Tiley.
Yes. I just hope they get on that, you know, we've waited a very
Yeah.
long
I'll
time.
get him on it, it'll be good.
Yeah.
He's always gonna do it within 2 weeks.
We'll get Ken Coos to stand up and make a.
Yeah, well, that might
Mr.
be
Collison
enough.
will take care of it, I have all confidence in him. I've seen him work before.
We gotta
Okay.
do the order. Next topic is the full-time police officer position.
Yes.
You want to stand up, please?
Ashley Snyder was promoted to full-time, was it 2 years ago?
About a year and a half, I
About a
think.
year and a half. She is going back to part-time, so that vacates a lot of hours, a lot of open shifts. She's really part-time, because I think she's only working a couple days so far in July. So without that position being full-time position, it's gonna be hard to fill some shifts, and the shifts that are hardest to fill are the Friday, Saturday nights when you most need a police officer. You know, for that, there's no one here on a Sunday or a Monday night. It's probably not as big a deal as not having here on someone on a Friday and Saturday, especially during the summer. So,
Do you have somebody that's expressed interest in being full-time?
Scott Connor is interested in it, yeah. He's been part-time. Officer, Scott Connor, he's working right now.
He's a part-time
He's a
officer?
part-time, he's been here, about a year or so, about a year, I think.
Can I ask you people on the council, how
Okay.
many of you ever met them all?
I haven't met
Well,
any of them.
We used to know
The
everyone.
last meeting that was brought up, and I brought one, we're the newest ones. I was gonna save that for later, but, Brian Berg is one of the new ones,
You don't have a uniform.
no, he came in on his own
Oh, he's
time.
got his tie on, man.
Hi, nice to
Hi,
meet you.
glad to meet
Nice-
you.
Nice
He's
to
got,
meet you,
uh,
Brian.
He's got more years in the business than I do.
Yeah, my feeling personally on this is not to fill the position right now and wait till the new manager gets here. Only because it will give us some extra money to pay for what we're going through right now. And, that's just how I feel about it.
Is that,
Yeah, that's a
and
good
that's
idea.
when
I
Ashley
agree
worked,
with
was
that.
Friday and Saturday nights?
She worked, I know she worked Fridays, I'd have to look at an old schedule. But
So
usually,
that's not filled right now.
There's a lot of open weekends.
Is there any reason we can't move them around and so that those are filled?
Well,
And
the
maybe
part-
leave a Monday open or Tuesday.
The part-timers all have other jobs.
But we have a full-time up left, right?
Ben,
Yeah, well,
Ben,
moving to someplace, adjust.
Onto a Friday or Saturday.
But anyway, that's just my feeling, and then if the new manager feels that it's appropriate, yeah, it'll still be a budgeted item, and, we could fill it then.
Money will still be there.
Just
What-
play it
what do
month
you-
by month, I'd say.
I
Yeah,
don't agree
I-
with that at all. I don't like the idea of us not having a police officer on, especially considering that we have break-ins happening again. My car got broken into last night.
Is it a lot?
No, but I mean, nothing's gonna be stolen, but how can we not have a police officer on duty?
well, those things
Well,
are
there's a
generally
lot of-
happening after 2:30, 3 o'clock anyway, when we're not here. And that would, to have to be a full, 24-hour department, we'd have to have another
Mhm.
full-time position.
Well, and if
That's
we
already
really have a
full.
full-time position open, it might be a good idea to go out and look for somebody and let them apply,
Right.
do background checks, and that's
Yeah.
done by the village manager. That's who hires and fires the people, and we don't have one right now.
Right.
So I just, feel uncomfortable
I was
doing
going to
that.
put the position was on MCO's site, it's not anymore. So I was gonna start working on that tomorrow.
Okay.
At least get a part-time position on there.
Sure, look for some part-time people, that's fine, but,
Everybody's hiring now.
are they?
Yeah. If you're a young guy
What do
in
you
this
think,
business,
Lois?
It's tired.
I'm fulfilling it right now.
Me too.
I really am. I hate to see us not have full-time, as much full-time coverage as we can.
We don't
Really
have
do.
full-time coverage, either way.
No, but
yeah,
I'd like
would-
to see as much as we can.
I'd rather wait. I really would. That's me. So I don't know.
Diane, what do you
I think a new manager should be involved with this, since they'll be working with them. And if the part-time people that you get can help cover those hours, that would be fine.
What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, I think we should wait. I think we should play it, instead of just saying until we get a new manager, let's play it month by month.
Yeah.
If it gets
See how
bad,
it
We'll
does.
wait till then.
We can
You
do
know,
that.
we can check in again next month. If it's bad, then we have to do something, but, yeah.
may get through the summer, decide when it slows down in the winter, may decide you don't want one at all, but not filling it all.
We could, but, that would be up to the new manager also to look
Right.
over the whole situation and see. I mean, I don't even know what your schedules are like, so, I'm not even sure what we're looking at here as far as trying to put people into different slots. And maybe as head of the police committee, I should know that. I don't know, but I never
used to
did.
know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And schedules were staggered, but in the last 3 years, we know absolutely nothing.
No.
So we don't know anything that's going on.
And I think we would like to know that. We'd like to see kinda how you're scheduling these people, when they're on and off, and that can be just, for our eyes only.
Not necessarily who, but what hours
No, no.
and days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's
Yeah.
it, yeah, that's what I'm saying,
They have
yeah.
names, I just need to see a
Yeah, but
schedule.
that's, okay, yeah.
What's
alright.
covered in that,
Okay.
that kind of a thing.
If you want to share that with us, it'd be great, we appreciate it.
No, you can tell him to share it with us if you want to.
I can maybe start including something in the police report or something.
Sure.
That would
be great.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Is there
Did-
mostly one person on, or sometimes there are
Yeah.
two?
So we were having two, for a while because, Matt was, adamant that we had hours budgeted and he wanted to fill those hours, lest we lose the budgeting.
Well, I did notice that, whenever something would happen that was, plausible to put up as this really happened, we always seem to have two people on.
Yeah.
And that puzzled me because we don't cover it 24 hours a day, so I was
No.
trying to figure out.
There was a little bit of a stagger there, but
Okay.
it was almost the same hours.
So those were like flukes when they were both out there, or they were scheduled to be out there together?
They were scheduled, yeah. they
Okay.
were scheduled. But most of the time, we were just one person here.
Okay.
Has the bike been used?
Yes, Yes, you got, and those mosquitoes are permitting.
Yeah.
I use it, I know Ben uses it, I don't, know if anybody else uses it. But
Do we
it's
have
nice
just
in the
that
mornings.
one bike or?
Just the one.
Yep.
Okay, they got rid of the other one before the,
I didn't, there was one when I got hired here in 14, I don't know whatever happened to it.
oh,
I think that was sold before we got the new one,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I
Yeah,
think so.
If I
I
remember
don't think we were
correctly.
told that.
Yeah, we were.
no,
No,
no, we.
No, the new one
I
just
was under
appeared.
the
But
impression we still had it.
The old one
But
I
it
knew
might
was
have been
sold.
sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the
I've
old
been
one
told
was just
that after the
a
fact,
regular
but I
bike
knew
that
it
was
was
taken
no,
out.
I think it was a pretty nice bike.
Was it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
'cause
was.
I think, I know how he bought it and he
Yeah.
rides bikes, so
Oh,
it was a decent bike, so we just ended up with the new one.
Chief, did actually resign?
Oh, yeah.
So that the benefits and stuff got taken off?
Yes,
Okay.
she lost her medical and
Okay.
So you got a letter of resignation from her.
noticed that she was going to part-time hours, which means that she loses her full-time benefits.
Okay, so you're taking that as a resignation from the job? From
Essentially-
that job?
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
I was wondering, do you need to have her resign and then reappoint her as a part-time? That's
No,
something
I
you have to do.
don't believe we do.
I would be more comfortable if we did it
And-
that way.
and with the
Just
union
because of
and
some of the
everything, I think
problems
you're
I
gonna
ran
have to
into. And with the union, I just think it would be better if
Right.
she quit one job and started a new job. And then, it just seems to me if we let them choose themselves to go from one job to another, there needs to be a line in there where, yeah, we agree, you're done here, and yes, you can be part-time. And like you said, she doesn't seem to be wanting to work all that much part-time anyway, so,
Not so far.
yeah.
That might be a good way to do that.
I would just like a letter of resignation in her file. It doesn't have to say anything other than,
She gave me a notice with a number of items that she was still kind of working on, and one of the items was a notice that she was going to part-time hours. I don't know if that constitutes a letter of resignation or not.
I don't think so.
It should be a regular letter
Okay.
Yeah.
stating that effect
yeah.
with a.
I mean, let's just make it neat and tidy.
Are we gonna talk about the car while I'm still up here, or is that
Yeah,
next?
yeah,
Might as
yeah.
well.
Sure.
Did we have a
We'll give you an
reckless
additional
police
300.
officer
Well, we
here?
touched on it last, in that special meeting, Ashley was driving, and she's out in the county, and she's backing up the county sheriff's, and she's looking for the address, and it's dark, and, oh, there it is, and jerks into the driveway, and there was a rock there at the end of the driveway she didn't see, and I looked at it, my first instinct was to not fix it. I come from Saginaw, something like that would have never been fixed. They just would have let it go. But.
I'm a firm believer that you fix it, and then the union can't say you didn't fix that, that's why we got in wrecked.
We got, I did take Jenny's, advice, and I got a bid from a guy in town this time, and, I
He was
didn't
the
know what-
lowest bid.
He was the lowest bid, yes.
He
We only
does
got
great
two bids,
work.
though.
Yeah, I
He
was
does
gonna
great
say,
work.
yeah, we
Mhm.
had him do some work on the car,
Yeah, we
and
have
we
too.
really liked him.
I got a good,
Yeah.
guy come
I like to do
They gonna take
locals
care of
if
that?
we can. I really do. I think-
Okay.
So we need a motion on that?
Yeah,
I make a motion, we fix the police car and use St. Charles Auto Collision for $1,101.56.
Support,
I'll support that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Just a minute.
Did you need a motion on that, what we were doing about the police?
Should have, shouldn't we?
I think it would be a good idea.
What's that?
Just what Jim
There's a
said.
motion for her to go part-time.
No, no, a
The
motion
resignation.
to hold
Hold
off,
off, okay.
oh,
On a month-to-month basis.
on a month-to-month basis and.
Yeah, I'll make the motion for that we bring this up monthly and discuss it. I don't know how else to word that until we get until we get a new
manager.
manager. Yeah.
I'll support that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Me.
One opposed?
Doesn't do any good, so why bother with it?
Are you gonna oppose it? Okay.
Motion's carried. Description adjustment for the property owners.
I'm looking for a little guidance, if you will, on this one. We have an owner that owns a large parcel of property as well as a lake. And then adjacent properties. And he would like to start including the descriptions into the lake, so it's a jointly owned lake instead of a solely owned lake, for value reasons and as far as selling. And I checked into it, and it's legal to have one owner have descriptions of the same adjoining property in the village and in the township, which the lake's in the township. But I think the cleanliness of it would be to have everything annexed into the village. And then if we get a police call there, they won't have to decide what's in the village and what isn't, or an ambulance might get the wrong address, or, and if you look at, I was hoping to have a flip chart, but I couldn't find one anyplace, but he wants these up here are where he lives and was family. Some of them are for sale now.
These are on Ithaca Road,
Yeah.
and these are where.
He was talking about drawing a straight line here, so part of it would be in the township and part of it would be in the village.
So part of the lake is in the township and part
All
of?
the lake is.
All the lake.
All the lake is in the township?
See this line right here?
That red line? Okay.
Not the red line, but this polka dotted line.
So those
Okay,
people
that's
can't
the
use the
village.
lake except him. But they got it for sale now, and none of the buyers want anything to do with it unless they have access to the lake. And so he's saying, well, maybe I ought to do it for all of them, including the ones on the new road,
Lakeshore Drive.
which the property between the road and the lake is his. He's talking about for a fee selling that to them, so they had lake access too, as well as the big piece on the end. And I don't know that I can force anything, but I think I could negotiate with him to the betterment of the whole project, if you guys think like I think. I don't wanna.
So then he could offer the existing homes easement to the lake.
Yeah, he's talking-
Actually, a piece of property that would be theirs on the other side of the road to the lake, and he's thinking of selling it to them, and they can choose to buy it or not buy
Right.
it.
As well as the same thing is gonna happen on this other side.
Is there
Mhm.
rules on how many parcels you can sell in a certain amount of time? Off of one
And how
divided
much-
property?
And how much you can divide it. I think
Yeah,
there's a limit
there's
on
there's
it.
a whole
limits on
big
how many times you
process,
can
isn't
divide
it?
that in a certain amount of time, so
Yeah.
if there's only 2 or 3 divisions, he might not be able to do that. He might be able to promise them
I
10
think
years.
I think it's only 5.
Yeah, there's limits.
I think, talking to Roger Mahoney, because of the size of it, he thought it could happen without the subdivision control act.
Okay.
involved with
Okay,
it.
because all the little parcels are
Yeah.
tiny on that side of the lake.
Now, that's a-
Well, they're non-buildable,
Right. So he could only sell it to them.
so the only
The
buildable
existing
lots
owners.
would be
Yeah,
on the west
side.
side of the lake.
yeah, you can't do anything with them
How much
except-
are you thinking of asking for them to bring in? Where are you thinking of going with it?
How far-
All that
how
he
far to
owns
the
there,
west?
and he owns on the other side. That line, because it's a GIS map, it's not accurate. And it's not in the lake, it actually comes out here, because he owns the whole lake, somebody else.
Does he
doesn't.
own this big plat of land
Yeah.
here?
I don't know if he owns the whole piece, but he owns the whole lake, including some
Okay.
property on both sides, so.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you annex in township property, they have to approve it to
Yeah.
begin with, right?
Well,
It's a whole process.
The county,
Yeah,
the
but-
county board has
Yeah.
the final approval.
But it has to go
Well,
through all
township-
3.
It has to go
The
through.
township will too, won't they?
Yeah, it has to go
They've
through.
got
The
a-
township really won't, the township shouldn't care because it doesn't do anything to them one way or the other.
Oh, wait.
They tax it already, they don't get less tax because it comes into the village, so it doesn't do anything to them.
Good point.
It would just
Um,
clean, it'd be a clean setup rather
It's a
than
pretty
messed up
jagged
one.
setup, that's there right now.
Yeah.
Um,
And if he does what he says, which I think he legally can, then we're gonna have the tax bill going from the township sometimes, and village and township other times because we both get the same one, and it just,
So they would get just the township tax, the ones on the road, on Ithaca Road, would get just the township tax. Well, also the ones
the ones
on
on
Shore
Ithaca
Drive.
get village and township, the ones,
This is all, I'm
but the piece
understanding-
if you went out in the lake, even if it's
Right.
adjacent,
What?
the township would be sending a township bill on the lake property.
Right, and we wouldn't send any bill on it.
Right.
The lake's all in.
Okay, I mean, the
township.
lake isn't, but this isn't all of this?
I don't know how far the township goes down there. Are
This
you a
is
township
all
or-
township.
You get me.
I live on that body of water, so I'm
Okay.
happy to answer any questions the council has on that, and I'm interested in this conversation extensively.
Oh.
Well, how do you feel about it?
Well, I'm one of the houses, I'm the last house in the village, so on Ithaca Road, I'm the furthest house to the west. So I guess my question would be, what happens if this parcel goes to be divided and some people want a new property description and some people don't? Because, you know, in theory, like I just bought a 1 acre parcel next to my house that's just in the township, and I didn't annex it, and it's just a separate property. Now, what if all of a sudden this pond gets divided up into 5 or 6 pie slices, and one person says, yes, I wanna annex in, so I have one property description, and somebody else just says, I don't wanna annex in because I just simply wanna have a township bill and then a village bill, and just have a separate parcel, no different, you know, it just happens to have water, but oh well, and just have a separate bill. And so, if it's just for the cleanliness of annexing in, I can see some people wanting to do that and some people not wanting to do it. And if they're already paying village taxes on their house, they might not want to pay more village tax, and they're not, you know, necessarily gaining anything, you know, on that note.
Maybe we should have them,
Maybe we should know
Come
what
in
the
and-
other people feel like.
yeah, get their opinions on it.
Well, there'll be public
Public
hearings
hearing,
and
yeah.
everything, but,
Yeah.
I mean, I can see his point.
Yeah.
So he would own his house in the village on Ithaca Road,
Correct.
and you could purchase the back end that he says he's going to split off from him, and it would remain in the township. And you'd have access to the lake, but you wouldn't have to pay, well, you'll probably pay lakefront taxes for it from the township, but you wouldn't have to from the village.
Correct. And there's really, as far as buildable lots, there's 3 houses that are in Ithaca that border the pond, and so any of the frontage there is non-buildable. And coming down Lake Shore, there's 2 houses that would be kind of across, that would be potentially getting frontage, and that whole frontage the whole frontage that would be divided going down Lake Shore is also unbuildable. At the end of Lake Shore, on the left across from the pond, there's one spot there that's a spot where a house could be built.
Or maybe 2. I'm looking at something that it could be 2.
Well, the way the back part of the
There's
property.
one there with a garage on it already, right?
So.
That could be a house.
The southern part of that property is about, the whole parcel's 23 acres, the pond's about 8. And so there's about 15 acres that has the pole barn and the river frontage in that back area. So as far as you saying there was 2 potential building spots on the far back, I don't know how you would do that, because if somebody builds over in the southwest corner, you would have to drive across somebody else's property if somebody built in the southeast corner. You know, if you said the back of the pond's wide enough to put several lots in there, you'd have to cross people's property.
I was talking about the other side that's outside of the village right now. And if somebody came in there and built themselves a road and if they bought the whole thing and built lots down here and wanted to put in a road, a legitimate road and a water line, you could have buildable lots on that lake down there.
I got you. There's, like, with me buying the frontage on Ithaca, there's really just the next person over, you know, it's basically be through his yard, and then he's got 12 acres that kind of butts up to the backside of it.
Yeah, you only need 66 feet to make a road.
He'd have to forego his house probably. But, all right. Yeah, I haven't heard the conversation about changing the property descriptions. My understanding in talking in the neighborhood a little bit was basically, we would each have like a potential pie slice, but I didn't know about changing the property descriptions to annex it in, because I can see there definitely being descriptions, like some people might want it clean and I just want one tax bill, and other people saying, hey, I want to double up the bill.
The owner's not talking about it. They came to me to see what the village's thought would be, and my thought is more from a public safety standpoint. Because we cover the village, we don't cover township, so, you know, a police car or an ambulance gets out there and is this in the village or is it in the township?
Well, our ambulances aren't gonna care anyway.
Well, the ambulance won't,
They
but the
won't
police
go
will.
anywhere.
I don't know, I'm just looking for direction. I wasn't quite sure where to go with it, so.
I think we need a whole lot of more information about it, I mean.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough information.
In a sense, unless people choose to annex in, does the village have any stake in that in the sense that it's just the township? You know, it's a separate entity, and so unless somebody wants to annex in, I kind of feel like it's no different than any other part of the township. It's not part of the village, it's just not part of the village.
Well,
Well-
we've got a city street going out there with utilities on it.
And that just services the village side, on the other side, there's no houses or anything
Right.
that's serviced.
We-
So that's
we-
part of township.
We normally wouldn't pursue any annexation unless somebody in there wants it annexed. And then it would have to be a majority of the people, to annex it in. So it's not something we can just decide to do and do. We can't just go out there and say, gee, I'd like that big chunk of land up there, we're gonna bring it in. That's not the way it works. We have to be petitioned first. But he was just talking with,
The
Mr.
owner.
Scott, to see if he would be willing to do that.
If that
And-
was what we thought would be best for
Yeah.
us and them.
But then we would still have to get the majority of the homeowners within the annexation area, which would be him, actually, because he
Yeah.
owns the most of it. And then other people would have a say at the public hearing. Generally, it's little lots together that we would annex in, and each person gets one vote, but this is a whole chunk that belongs just to him.
It's an unusual situation.
It is.
I just didn't want to proceed and say yes
I
or
went down
no
and
or
talked to
anything.
Dennis all afternoon, and we couldn't come up with a true yes or a true no. So, well, and you guys were there. We just couldn't come to an agreement of what.
There's
would be
good
the
points
best
and
thing to
bad
do.
points of
Yeah.
both, and
Can you have any envision of like, let's say everybody bought a pie wedge of this
Yeah.
pond, and then it was individual property owner's choice, like, you know, I wanna annex in, or I don't wanna annex in, and it's just each pie slice is his own choice.
well, I think the owner of the lake would, to start with, would come up with an agreement on how the lake could be used and so that, you know, maybe no motors or
Yeah, I think it
electric
would be-
motors
Yeah,
It's gonna be like an
only, all that kind
association,
of
I would
stuff.
think, as to what.
So that any of them that did happen would have to follow those.
Okay.
But I think even if he just does these three, I think he plans on doing that.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
So basically.
I'll meet with the guy, I just was hoping.
Yeah, for a little more
For a little
help.
more direction, but
Yeah.
we'll meet and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe the people just in the village now wants it. Maybe those people on Lakeview Drive want that other part and would buy it from him. I don't know.
Well, it would potentially make if they were looking to buy or sell or anything, it'd make it more valuable for them.
If they had access to the lake, the
If they had
people that are
access to
already
the lake.
existing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it and run.
Okay.
Okay. I think so. Resolution 1911, appointment of a DDA executive director.
I make a motion that we appoint Dennis Collison, interim manager Dennis Collison as the executive director of the Downtown Development Authority.
Support?
I'll support that.
We can vote on it, can't
Oh,
All
it's got
those-
eyes and, it's got eyes and nays.
we? All those in favor?
It's got eyes and nays.
Alright.
You gotta do it, right here, right here.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay,
No,
roll call.
Need roll call.
Lois Tiley,
Yes.
Diana Coots,
Yes.
Christine Newman,
Yes.
Richard Horner,
Yes.
Jim McPhail,
Yes.
Diane Dennis,
Yes.
and Sarah Tiley.
Yes.
Now you can have your meeting tomorrow morning. were you gonna do if we said no?
Darn.
Yeah.
Wasn't in your plan, was it? Tree bids.
We have some trees that need to be taken down or trimmed, and we got 2 bids, and the low bidder was Monk Tree Service. It's a budgeted item. And we
They're on
recommend
Hemlock?
approval.
Yeah.
38.
Okay, you know them?
They've done work for us, yeah.
Okay,
Yep,
They've done work for the village.
have they?
Yeah.
Okay.
they're good guys.
We actually got 3 bids, but one didn't bid on the one tree because it was too big, so.
Oh, well, okay,
So we got 2 qualified.
okay.
Was this posted?
What's that?
Was this posted for bids?
We just solicited 3 bids.
I'm just amazed at how much it costs to get a tree cut down, you know?
Depends where it's at, wires, I mean, that
I
can be
know.
wide,
Mm-hmm.
and 2
That
contractors.
park tree must be a little, it's only $300.
We would normally take that down, but it's leaning over one of the flower beds and there's a roll.
Okay,
So, yeah, that's good provisions. Normally, we would just drop it if it was on the middle of nowhere. And I think we did budget at 5,000 budget.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, wasn't it
And
5,000?
we spent 7 already, so we'd still be under budget.
we had 5,000 and we spent 7,000?
700.
Okay. Did you?
I'm sorry, I forgot to say 100. We spent 700 on it.
Okay. Did you ask Acorn? Are they,
He's the one that did not bid on that.
okay. I make a motion we accept the bid from Monk's Tree Service for, can you add it up?
$3,800. I added that up.
Okay, thank you. For $3,800, for tree removal.
Support?
I'll support that.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Old business, continued discussion on the water and sewer rates studies.
You guys wanted a month to decipher and understand everything that he handed out last month. I figured you'd be ready to go.
Why are you looking at me?
Well, you're doing one at a time.
I still can't make a whole bunch of sense of it. I have to start this discussion with one thing. You know, Don, when you guys were at that water meeting, and where Saginaw said that they're going to raise their rates 8% a year for the next 3 years, did anybody object to that? Did any of the outlying areas that get water from Saginaw throw a fit?
Not really, there's not a whole lot of discussion.
It's a pretty quiet meeting.
They have a formula.
No easy way else.
No, you know what irritates me is ultimately we're paying for their infrastructure improvements in there, and then on top of that, we're going to have to pay for ours. I really object to that. I really think that's
It's
wrong.
complicated, we don't pay for any infrastructure inside the city other than the treatment part of it. We don't pay for any of their lead line replacement or.
Well, then why are they raising the rates that much the next 3 years?
Treatment plant.
And they're doing improvements to the water treatment plant, to the different parts of the pumping and transmission mains.
Doesn't that include like the one in Thomas Township and the one
Yeah,
in,
the aqua place.
any of those great big huge things you see around? That's all part of that system that we pay for.
To get it to us.
Yeah.
That's just terrible. I mean, it
Well,
really
it's
is, it's,
expensive, Diane.
I know it's expensive, I don't, I
It's
really,
it's complicated.
it's just gonna throw all this stuff on us, you know, and I just, I really am not happy about that at all. I don't know, you have, Dick, somebody has a question.
Step up, please.
Yeah, what are you guys doing about it? I mean, I'm pissed off too, 8% for next, 8 years. This council has some responsibility to us taxpayers.
See, I think that too. I really do. I don't know, I don't know if there's, what we can do about it, but I just think
Well,
that
someone
that's
can
terrible.
bitch.
Yeah, we can gripe.
That doesn't always do any good.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, it is, at some point, somebody needs to know how unhappy, I think everybody, not just us, but Thomas Township, any other place that gets water from Saginaw, we're looking at state requirements to do all this stuff that's gonna cost big money. That's all gonna jack up our water bills like you cannot believe. And I think that somebody does need to tell them that's a lot. Whether it's expensive or not, I mean, basically, we're paying for the mess up down there in Flint. I mean, all of this stuff that the state is requiring now, to me, is not necessary. And it makes me so angry every time I think about it. And I think about how much we're gonna have to pay. He wants to talk again.
Yes, sir, please stand up so we can hear you.
Mark Westlock, I'm a village resident, 1260 North Main Street. My suggestion is why doesn't this village council write a letter to the responsible people there and voice your opinion about, your dissatisfaction with the 8% increase? Get something done.
Can we do that?
I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
Cause I mean, to me, it's horrendous. I mean, you're looking at that raise before we even get to our infrastructure improvements. There's a legal term called overburdensome, and I certainly think that applies there. Use that word, if you will, in your letter, overburdensome.
Is that in the dictionary?
It's in the legal dictionaries, but yeah, because we need to, let them know we're gonna have to raise rates in order to pay for our own improvements here. It's just going to be terrible. I just think it's not fair to anybody here in this village that's gonna have to pay for all of this. I know I don't wanna pay for it, and I can't imagine anybody else is just thrilled. Oh gosh, my water bill's gonna go up upwards of what, to $300 or something. That's a lot.
Can I ask you, Don, was it 8% across the board?
Each community was different.
Each community was different. Were there some that were higher than
There were
us?
some that were higher.
Okay, were there some that were lower than us?
Don't believe so.
Okay.
Why would they make that difference?
Because they factor in the distance and the cost it takes to get the water to
Mhm.
you.
Different people have
Pumping,
different races.
pumping requirements.
I can't imagine the people didn't jump up and down at that
Because this
meeting.
happens every year.
But not 8% for the next 3
No,
years,
there-
it was
It's
like
been
24%.
I think in the
The
contract.
bad part is, there's no alternative.
No, it's been 10%. I mean, it's been higher
I
than
think in the
that.
contract that the communities have signed, it's every 3 years they do a rate study, and whatever that rate study turns out is what the cost.
It's the same as the rate study we're doing right now.
They got the commodity and we need it.
Which
so-
is another thing that
Exactly.
you had talked to me about today is we need to get a contract with the city of Saginaw.
If we wanna borrow some money, we're gonna
Yes.
have to.
And you know somebody that you can talk to see if
We'll
you
see,
can.
but I mean, we need to get after our
Do you know
attorney
anybody?
and-
Well, you must know somebody at the city of Saginaw.
I might.
Okay.
Me and Denny can get together and see if we can.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take, you're gonna do us a letter, eh?
Yep.
Okay,
Overburdened.
we don't need any more than that.
Mm-mm.
Remember, I had to put that word in there.
There you go.
No, no,
Gotta get
okay.
that word.
Fired you.
I think there was some communities with 12-13%,
Mhm.
something like that.
I remember one time it was in the 20% and everybody
Yeah, I
just
think
blew up
the
and it all
original-
stopped.
The
So if you
original
do,
rate
Thank you for
15
your
years
voice,
ago, they
really.
Cayman Township was like 20-some percent.
Mhm.
I
I remember that. It's shocking me too. Angry.
Okay. Is there more on this, water and sewer rate study?
What do we need to do on this?
Where are we at?
We have a deadline for November, right?
Yep.
November, we have to have, for the wastewater and for the stormwater, we have to have a rate structure in place, so we have to have a, decision made on how you wanna proceed. That needs to be done before November, so at the very latest, the October meeting.
Didn't we decide on the stormwater already?
Stormwater, I mean.
It's kind of
there-
a nothing thing.
Stormwater's a nothing because there's no mechanism to get funding for stormwater, so
Right.
there's nothing really to do.
So what about the water?
The water, that's open for you to decide whenever you're ready to make a decision on that.
Okay.
But does that have to be part of the rural development application?
It will have to be part of the rural development application.
And
So
when
you're
will that
saying
be
you have
needed?
to have an
And the
answer
rural
by
development
October.
application, I mean, we're probably 6 months out yet.
So these three things that I remembered to bring,
Yep.
these are our scenarios, 1, 2, and 3.
Those are 3 scenarios that the financial consultant put together for you to, look at, capital improvements for both water and sewer.
Yep.
And, one was a
I've not been happy with them since I saw them, you know what do you mean,
Okay.
study it, no.
one of them was a cash-only scenario where you're not bonding anything. One of
I
them
think we
was,
threw that one out.
yeah, one of them was
Yeah.
a water bond and a sewer bond around 2022, 2023. And the other scenario was a bond in
Between these
2022,
two.
2023, and then another water bond in another 5 years to
And that's
do more
kinda the one
improvements.
We didn't, we
Yeah.
didn't wanna do the high one, I know
Two.
that,
Right.
that was
That's the one
just
I got.
unbelievable,
Yeah.
way too much
Most people
money.
are leaning towards.
Yeah.
And I think you were leaning towards scenario 2
Two.
that had the initial water and sewer bonds
Yeah.
with the idea that once you get to that point, you're gonna kind of see what we needed to do with that phase 2.
Yeah, cause we can get the initial bond going.
Right.
And then see what we have to do.
And hopefully
We
we'll
may have
find,
to adjust.
we'll
Yeah.
find out that, hopefully we get some portion of a grant in there, which will
Right.
Right.
have some bearing downward.
Okay, and then, so the number 2 one was replacing all 4-inch mains. So I wanna ask you.
Well, the first one was a $2 million project that we hadn't defined, which was starting with looking at replacing all of the 4-inch mains.
Yes.
Which would have been about a $2 million project.
But we weren't gonna do that one, right?
Well, actually, what we're looking at now is looking at where your breaks are and doing more of an asset management approach to look at, where the worst
Okay.
water mains are. Most of them are on the 4-inch mains.
Yeah,
Most of them are 4-inch cast iron mains,
oh,
which is why you're having problems with them. So what we're leaning towards right now is actually taking a more, instead of doing all the 4-inch, looking at the worst ones and fixing those first.
okay.
But that, in that report you should have for us next month, is that my understanding, according to your little sheet paper there?
Well, it's gonna be a work in progress for several months to come, and it's all gonna be, the input and the direction that you give to us, at these council meetings.
Okay, so instead of going all one or all the other, we're gonna put them together and do the worst first.
Correct. Yep, and we've given a map to Don to go over with the DPW guys,
Are
and.
you okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah, we're going through the sewer and get the most bang for our buck, basically.
Yeah.
We can replace the worst ones first and do some valving.
And at the same time, they're picking the real worst ones that were,
This-
that
That are
will
killing us.
hopefully have a
You
project
remember
next
this-
year.
This
Yeah.
giant thing.
Yes,
These are where all your water main breaks are for the last 5 years or so.
okay,
And so what we are doing is we're, making sure that, these particular blocks, are exactly, where the breaks were. Some of the records that we've gotten from the village just say Saginaw Street. They don't say which block, they don't say wherever. So this red dot might be exactly in the right spot. So that's why we want the DPW guys to look over, make sure we have the right spot, make sure that we're hitting the worst water mains first.
okay.
And also doing some valving work where we
Yep.
can get the most bang for our buck.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're taking a more asset management approach versus just, let's replace all the 4-inch. If it's a decent 4-inch, let's leave it alone and fix one that's broken.
Okay, and did I read in here, in some of, I can't even remember where it was now, that, we're going to try to do the one over by the, Union Court, where we had the 5 breaks in the
Yes.
spring. Now, we're gonna
Yes.
look at doing that as soon as possible.
We hope to have an estimate for the next meeting.
Okay,
We're working on an estimate for 2 to 4 blocks in that area, where we had those 5 breaks.
and then if I see somebody recommended that we maybe borrow from the sewer fund to
The
cover
financial
that, does
sub-consultant.
that mean that when we get the bond, we can pay that sewer fund back?
Correct. That's what
Does
the
that mean-
financial sub-consultant talked about.
Yeah,
And he
Does
did
that
talk
work?
about that.
Yeah, that works, and I looked at your last audit, we haven't got this year's done yet, but,
right.
and there's some of it, money in water reserves that you could use too, so you wouldn't have to borrow the whole amount.
Okay.
But depending on what that amount comes in, but
Mm-hmm. So.
I'm
we're
looking
all okay with
50-50,
that still?
maybe.
Yeah.
I am, yep.
Mhm.
So is there, what kind of action do we have to take tonight? Anything particular?
Right now, tonight, I think the item on the agenda was just a discussion to continue our discussions on water and sewer.
So-
to get more
Well, and
direction.
to approve the USDA-RD funding application.
That's
was
the
the
next
second.
item on the agenda.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah.
first, on that, so that we can narrow this down, do we
Back
all
on
like
this?
number 2 on there? The
Well, I
second?
think we've made it 2 and 3.
Gonna kind of blend them?
I think that's what we're gonna do.
Because to me, it does look like we're gonna have to piecemeal them.
Some
I
of
don't
them
know how
are
you
a
can just
combination
say
of 4-inch and.
one, and you know.
And
Iron,
the
cast
worst,
iron.
Yep.
worst first.
And so they're going to try to figure out which is our worst case scenario and fix those.
Yep.
Okay.
Instead of going after just all 4-inch or all cast iron.
Well, and in that model there, it was a $2 million water bond for 2022, 2023.
Either one.
So whether it's
Yeah.
4-inch or 6-inch, at this point in time, it really doesn't matter. We're trying to hit what the village can afford.
Mm-hmm.
Right, whatever we can afford, we'll do the most
Do the-
good we can.
Yep.
And that'll be the first
Yeah.
bond,
Right, that would be phase one.
that'll be the first bond. So then we're just gonna adjust from then on every year.
Yes. Well, we'll do
5
another
years.
bond 5 years later.
And you,
But we look at it every year, right?
but you would look at it every year.
Right.
That-
Well, I think we
that's-
would approve the stuff that's going on as
Yeah.
it goes on,
As,
right?
as part of the budgetary process and the asset management model, every year we'd look at, the worst
See where we're
utilities
at.
and see where we're at and reassess it
Okay.
and make sure the village's plan looking forward is, still the vision of the council.
Okay.
What is the state gonna require on this report in November?
The report in November, that is going to be actually, for the water system, January 1st, you have to have the preliminary materials, the preliminary distribution system materials inventory completed.
That's a mouthful.
That's a mouthful. So what that is, and Don, and we've already been working on that, and that is, an inventory of every asset in your water distribution system. All the pipes, all the hydrants, the water tower, all the meters, all the water services, including all the services on private property.
But we'll have that. I mean, that's something that we've been working on, so
That's
we'll
something that we
that.
have working on, we will have that.
So we're not in trouble with any
Not
of
in
that
trouble
then.
with that at all.
Okay.
We'll meet the requirement, but
Yep.
it is a lot of work going on behind the scenes.
No, I know that, yeah, and I know it's a lot of work. That's not, we're going to,
Yep.
with no extra.
Yep. A lot of that
expense
work's
here.
already done, and, as the DPW guys work, they're filling in the blanks when they run across things, so we can make that inventory as complete as possible. There will be some areas that are, for material unknown, for diameter unknown, for year built unknown. Those things, we have 5 years to find out. We
How do you
have-
find out?
We have to verify the
Dig 'em up.
material and the diameter.
But as we do a water project, we're gonna verify them because we're
A
We're
lot
gonna
of
be
them
in
will be
there.
going
there.
away.
Okay.
So as we go.
And that'll help
Yep.
on your lead and copper.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff, so it's kind of tied together.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and we also just recently got a copy of the form the DEQ is gonna require for January 1st.
So you
And it's,
know it.
and it's actually less stringent than I thought it was going to be. There's actually some wording on there, how confident are you in these results? So
Okay.
somewhat, 100%,
Okay. They're letting you do that.
they're letting you do that.
I mean, there's just gonna be some that you don't know.
Right, and I mean, there's gonna be things, every community's gonna have things that they don't know.
So that saves you from going in, digging them up.
At this point.
At this
Yeah.
point, over the
That
next 5
saves that.
years,
Yeah.
you are going to
But from
be-
now,
Correct.
that takes that burden off
Right.
Correct.
of having to
So
physically
when you get
inspect.
a water main break, you actually pay attention to what it is and then write it down later?
Yeah,
What you found when you dug?
We
and-
actually do an after action, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't think they used to do that.
And now that we have the water, now that we have the GIS for the water system, you know, it's gonna be easier for the guys to help track some of those things.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So
Can I
if
ask a question?
you, if you think you wanna do a bond issue, you gotta approve this.
Yep,
Approve which? The always agreement there?
the agreement between owner and engineer for
Oh.
professional services.
Yep. And I think we do wanna do a bond.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve Spicer for our engineer for professional services to obtain a USDA RD funding application. Does that make
Support.
sense?
I'll support.
For water distribution.
Now that's.
You got a hand up.
We have a-
Yeah, but wait, till we're-
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you, as you're gonna update the lines, are you going to update the hydrants?
Yes.
So everything will be done at the same time?
Correct, valves, the line, valves, hydrants, services.
No, that's not to your house.
No, I
That's just
understand.
the village,
So you need to
village
finish
line.
that.
The hydrant's still kind of important.
I
Absolutely.
got it.
Okay,
No, everything was.
I think you need a second.
I did.
Okay, you need to vote.
We need to take a vote on this, agreement, or exhibit A, to accept Spicer as our engineering group, on this matter.
Mhm.
Lois Tiley,
Yes.
Diana Coons,
Yes,
Christine Newman,
Yes.
Richard Horner,
Yes.
Jim McPhail,
Yes.
Diane Dennis,
Yes.
Sarah Tiley. Yes.
That brings us up somewhere near the, brings us out on the county drain petition.
Oh,
We kind of already talked about that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it here, but
So you have it all?
this last one, do you want? Hey, is he gonna
Going
sign
too
it?
deep.
is he gonna sign it?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yes.
DPW report. Sorry, lost my train of thought.
No, you're right.
Any questions?
What's a totem pole tree?
What?
Totem pole tree?
Oh, it's in the park.
That was in the park, they had bear and some eagles on it.
It's
That
the
guy
one that's
came and
carved
carved it
out
for
with
us?
chainsaw?
You've never
Okay,
seen it?
no, never
Oh.
paid attention to that.
It's cute.
We were looking at taking it down, but Mother Nature took care of it.
Took care of it, you know.
Oh, really?
Those chainsaw carvings, that's what it was. We had one disintegrate. I bought my husband a
We
big
did
fish,
that already.
and for some reason it just went,
This just rotted off at the ground.
yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Any other questions on DPW?
The flowers are looking pretty good.
You know, and I'm not somebody who looks at things that are bad. I always notice things that are good. And when I went up to the grocery store today, you know, the hanging plants
Is it pretty?
and the lilies, they're just gorgeous up there. Looks very, very nice.
And somebody should write a letter to Mr. Fields for the front of his house, because those are the best flowers in town on the corner of Woodlawn. He's got
Oh,
those red,
yeah.
white, and blue petunias with the yellow. Man, he does a good job
They
on
put a
those.
lot of work into it. You see
Oh.
them there all the time.
Yep.
Mr. Westlock?
What's the DPW gonna do about the trees growing into the roads? I live on North Main Street, you know, the trees are in the ditch, growing into the roads. My neighbor and I are pushing them back the best we can, but, that never happened in the past.
He's talking about down at the end of the road, the ditches down
On
there.
the backside of the ditch.
Just
Yeah,
told me
that
this
they
morning, I was
grow
looking at that.
Yeah, at the end of North Main where it dead ends into Beaver Creek.
They become a traffic hazard, we'll trim them or whatever that needs to be done.
There's only two of us that, you know, live there, but we both pay taxes.
But I mean, we don't clear the whole right of way either.
No, I
It's
know.
Traffic, you know.
In defense of, the past, they used to take care of that. You know, the trees weren't growing up into the ditch. It's eventually gonna, restrict the flow, and you're gonna have flooding upriver, or up.
Up and down by our house worse than
Right,
we have right
exactly.
now. Can you just go take a look at it and see what you got, you know?
They'll check it out.
So check it out, and then you could probably call and get an answer on that, Mr. Westlock. Dick?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Victoria, and I just had two concerns about, the park. I've had multiple complaints about the bathrooms not being open or not being properly stocked. Because of other my children need to use the bathroom along with the softball association, they need to be, present to anybody. It might also be a staffing issue too with police, with it me not being able to, because we were under the impression that police are to open the bathrooms in the morning and are to close them at night, but there's been multiple times where bathrooms were not open. Also, I work with the school sometimes too, so the school came down to use the parks the last week of school, so I let the village office know that the school was walking down to the parks and that they needed to be open. They did open them, but I just know that bathrooms are always an issue to keep them cleanliness, and I know Don always says that we're always gonna be fighting that. So that's one concern. And then another concern too is, disc golfers are smoking marijuana back there very often, and we've had lots of complaints from parents coming to us as the board members, and children smelling that, asking what the smell is. Of course, they don't know that, so they're thinking it's a skunk, but I don't think it's a proper place for it. I don't know what the legalization is for. I think it's illegal to be doing that. I don't know, but they are smoking marijuana back there.
Is it John?
I'm not so sure myself anymore. I'd have to look, I'd have to,
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
It's
It's an age thing.
such a
From my
big
understanding,
place.
it has to be on private property.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there was complaints with like the T-ball and 8U.
And even if
Oh.
it's on private property, I
It's
don't
just
think it
like
can be on your
right-
front porch. I
right
think
in the
there's
dugout.
stipulations on that too.
Yeah, and it's always a problem out there.
Yeah.
And there's been complaints with, smoking marijuana on the rail trail too. And I was questioning, when you were talking about the bike, there's always been, a schedule where the police officers rode the bike, at least in the village proper, occasionally, on the rail trail. Don't ever see, I ride that trail every day, and I've never, in the last 5 years, I've never seen anybody, with the police bike on the trail.
That's the place I ride it. I ride it down, and I go down the rail trail and come back on Saginaw, I ride down Saginaw and come back on the rail trail.
Do you use the police bike with the police trunk on it? There's a trunk, the bike has a trunk with the police insignia
The
on it.
bag on the back?
Yeah.
That's what bike we have anymore.
Yeah.
So I just know, like, with summer being around, like, it's gonna be more and more fluent with people being out. And if we don't have this support with only part-time police officers, I hope that doesn't become a bigger issue.
But I think, you
Well,
know,
that's not the time of day
Yeah,
that we would be
yeah.
covering anyway.
I think the marijuana law is so,
Big.
they don't know what to do with it, and, I heard the county sheriff say that he's telling his officers, unless they find a whole big bag of it,
To just leave it alone.
to just leave it alone, so they're being told because they don't know what they can and cannot enforce right now.
We
So-
let them out of the park.
It's undesirable, I agree with you when you're having young children over there, that's a terrible thing. But I think it is, if a police officer sees it, they can probably suggest that they not do that.
Can there be an ordinance put in place, like for the park?
There's already an ordinance against alcohol in there.
You just add that line on there.
I believe so.
Can we do that?
I don't know if we
Didn't
can
we
or
decide
not.
not
Does the ordinance have a?
Yeah, we voted that we weren't gonna do anything with that until the
We
state
put a moratorium
decided.
on the sale.
I don't need
But on
a.
anything
on the
to do
common.
with it.
I thought that's what it was too, that anything that had to do with it, we weren't gonna touch it until we had more information.
Until
Right.
we had said we weren't gonna do it until we had some information from the state on what it is that we can and cannot do, because we don't.
I don't know.
I don't know what
They
the.
passed a law down there and
Said
they
in
don't
general, it was
really know what they
everything
can.
until we got more
We ask
information.
our attorney just to find out. We could ask the MML, they might know, but they just had a webinar last week, or this week, but they still don't have all the answers on everything. I mean, nobody knows what's going on with this law.
We can
It's-
check into that for you, how is that?
It's okay, I mean, as long as we're just bringing it to your attention,
Yeah.
and the officer
Mhm.
knows a little bit more,
One-
that what they're playing out there is.
One problem that I notice as a father is that, it was always around when we were kids, but it was always hidden. And it is right out in the open now.
Oh,
My
yeah.
boys, they see it, their friends do it. It's the parents are doing it in front of the kids, it is right out in the open and.
But I think there's a way around
So
that in
much
general.
more
We could
available.
say no smoking at all in the park because there's a fire hazard because there's all the pine trees. So there's a way to get around that, I feel.
Or-
No
or-
smoking in general.
Or it's a public area and there's no smoking at all.
Yeah, and that's it. No smoking in general.
I'd like
You
to
could
know
get
what
around
the,
that.
the legalities,
I
cause you don't
think
wanna
they
get
need-
harassment.
If you go with no smoking at all.
I don't know if I would arrest them, I don't need an ordinance to run them off.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
we got complaints, you can't do it in here.
Right, for
You
now.
know, Put it
anyway.
out or take it somewhere else or whatever you're gonna do, but.
Yeah, I'd like to know if we can actually put a sign, put it on the sign that says no alcohol, but no marijuana. I'd like to know if we can do that.
I don't know.
I feel like you
Can
could get
we,
away
check
with the no
with the
smoking
attorney on
in
that?
general because it is technically a fire hazard
Or
out
no
there.
intoxicants. Or
I-
like,
there's no
food
smoking.
drug-free zone, can't you?
There's no smoking on public property.
Yeah, and I think that would go with the marijuana thing in general.
It
Well, they
doesn't
got
serve
the
cigarettes
Atkins, but you don't smell
or
that.
pipe, but
Yeah.
there's no smoking.
No smoking in general.
I think we need to check
So
into
he can
that.
go
Yeah.
in and, well, it's smoking. I mean, it is
No, I
smoking.
know.
Yeah.
If they don't
Yeah.
smoke it, you
Well,
don't smell it. You know,
Smells like
I mean, if they're
skunk.
eating it.
Yeah, if they're eating
How do you get
it,
it
brownies or
away?
something, you're not
Yeah.
gonna be able to deal with it, but the smoking part you can take care of.
Yeah.
Chief will take care
We'll
of it.
need to do some investigation on that one.
Yeah.
But as far as the back go, they are cleaned and open every morning at 8 o'clock.
Are they? And the police don't clean and open
No,
them?
they lock them.
No.
No, they don't.
I was up there just before the meeting and they had to lock them up because of the filth and the ladies.
Because of what then?
Because of what?
Filth. So you got a good one in the morning.
I think the bigger danger with the open shift now is that they're not being locked, and them being open all night long is not a good thing.
Well, that's for
We've had
sure.
arsons in there, people going in there and damaging them, and so, locking them really depends. You could lock them at 6 o'clock, sometimes you can't lock them until they're playing baseball, sometimes you can't lock them until almost 9 o'clock. But
Well, you
I
know,
don't-
if the baseball people, if someone's willing to be responsible for it, they could have a
Yeah,
key and lock
key.
it when they leave.
I'd be fine with that.
You know, and then you don't have to
Designated
worry about
person.
getting back there at night to lock it up. But that would be only when there's baseball games. When there's no baseball games, they're not gonna run into town and lock it up.
Right.
Yeah, that, you could guys
But the
could do
police
that.
should notice that as they're driving
Yeah.
around, right? I can't see him, he's behind the.
Yeah, but we
I
have an
got
open
you.
shift now, so
The bathrooms don't get locked up until the second shift officer, and like I said, if the weather's bad, you can lock them up at 6 o'clock in the evening, or if there's nobody there. But if there's people in the park, or there's baseball games going, sometimes it's.
but we also have porta johns in there too, though.
Yeah.
So I feel like you could lock them up at a certain
I'd rather have
time.
them locked than left unlocked all
Right.
night.
I mean, cause
Yeah.
there's what, there's 2 or 3 porta johns in the park? 2? So that's perfect, I mean, there's,
How much longer does your season last?
We're done.
We're
You're
done.
done.
Oh, you're done,
So
okay.
one thing with the Porta Johns is baseball previously paid for the one Porta John that was closest to the Little League fields, or
Mhm.
the two. And this year we decided like, hey, if there's a public bathroom here, we're not gonna, like, why are we spending $160 to have a bathroom here when it should be taken care of by the village? I mean, there's a functional brick and mortar bathroom right here. And so our argument was like, that needs to be maintained as part of the park. Why are we paying for a porta potty 50 yards away? And so,
It's-
so one of the solutions could be, instead of having this debate about locking or not locking it, if those porta johns are in the park earlier in the season, you know, there's no reason they can't be there early in the spring instead of, and waiting so long, because those just showed up, you know, 2/3 of the way through our season after we didn't put any, you know, we didn't pay for one this year. You know, they have them for football seasons out until late November. There's no reason, you know, then it takes care of the issue of arson and stuff and the thing, they're more available, and, you know, so that'd be my vote, is to have the porta johns there earlier in the spring and later in the fall, and then it takes care of the issue of locking or not locking.
Who pays for it? Pays for the porta john.
We do, we would.
Village.
And you got a bathroom that, we're not using and porta johns that we're paying for?
Well,
Yeah, I like the idea of
Paying
getting
one
a
way or
key
the other.
before the game, you know, just
You're gonna-
having somebody.
those
authorized
bathrooms are just a
As
nightmare.
being,
The
a
toilets
mom
are
and a
horrible.
grandma
I
taking a
think
very
they're so
little
bad.
child to a porta john is not a desirable situation, you know?
But sometimes
needs
it's
to be
not
maintained.
desirable to take them into the bathroom either.
Yeah.
Because the destruction of those bathrooms is a constant thing. The last time we built it, we bought stainless steel toilets that they use in prisons that you cannot get off of walls. The kids in this town can get it off the wall.
Well, and a lot of
And the
people don't wanna
doors.
use them either because when it's hot out, they're just covered in water. They're gross.
Well, you know,
Yeah, you
we
gotta-
don't have anybody over there that,
We clean them once a day, but you
Cleans,
can't stop
yeah.
people from doing what they do.
No.
There's times they'll take a whole roll of toilet paper, line the toilet to
Yep.
sit on it, and walk away from it. It's like, then the next person's not gonna use it. It's like,
yeah.
how do we can't be there 24/7.
It was better when we,
And
we had
everybody has
someone
the
near
same battle, I don't care where you go, any
Yep.
municipality, toilets are always an
Yep.
issue.
Put some thought to it before next year.
Yeah, well, and let us
Back
know
to
when
you,
you're
you did
starting.
let us- So back, will we start, practices in the end of April? We gave
End
you
of
guys a
April.
we gave the village a schedule, I should say, we didn't give the council a
Okay.
schedule. But, if you did decide to give us a key, I think we would be more than welcome to. I don't mind myself, but I think there would have to be a couple keys made, because I'm only there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he's only there on Mondays and Wednesdays. But I mean, if we had two people cycling through, I think that sounds great, but then who is responsible to keeping the bathroom updated and putting the toilet paper in there and all of those?
Well, they do that
We
every
check it
morning.
every morning
Okay,
at 8
okay.
o'clock.
And if it's gone, it's because somebody took it.
Okay.
I'm sure you
As long
went
as,
in-
no, as long as we didn't have the responsibility of doing that.
Yeah,
we just had
no.
the key to open it.
No, I'm
sure
just
you
thinking
went
of
in
somebody
and
to
seen
lock
that
it at
roll of
night.
toilet paper on the floor or something.
Yeah, I mean, the
We can't-
bathrooms are not,
We can't control that.
And the porta potties, we actually have one up in the front for the farmer's market, I believe, to make it convenient for everyone that's up there. And then there's one in the back that we had for the Little League.
also another thing that the village did, that Don did, is he added a dryer in the bathroom, which was very nice. Instead of a paper towel, he added a dryer
Uh-huh.
in there, so that was
Did you put a
very-
date on it to see when it got there and how long it's gonna
Oh,
last?
we didn't put that in there. We've been putting hand sanitizer.
Oh my gosh, you just made me look like a big old.
We looked at doing it,
He
but.
was in the mix and he was
Yeah,
supposed
there-
to, it's
we
like
were
the
looking
nice
at
up
it.
the paperwork there.
There's not enough power in there right now,
Okay.
hand dryers.
Okay.
But we have been using hand sanitizer, and surprisingly, we've only got one taken.
Okay.
It's worked out better than I thought. I thought they would be gone.
But I do know a lot of people use the frame, and they're all just walking, you know, like, walking the stroller. Those bathrooms do get used quite often.
Police department report.
Police department report.
Yeah.
Police department report. Anything?
Just
the new officer with one of the newest, and Brian Burley.
And you chose a really nice night to come, it's a short meeting. Sorry.
Building inspector report, one item.
Yeah. Oh, the library put in a new air conditioner?
Oh, I don't think for that amount of money they put in a new one.
No, they must, what did they do? Guess doesn't matter, they must need to permit.
The code enforcement report, there's none, and any further public comment? Step up.
Again, I'll introduce myself, Mark Westlock, with 1260 North Main, village resident. You know, over the course of the last few months, my neighbors and I, we've been questioning the competence of this committee. And some of the things that we're concerned about, two of them, and I know I have 3 minutes, but one is the $41,000 severance pay. Chesney was able to make public why they fired their chief of police, and we can't make the same information available to the taxpayers. Very concerned about it. Some of the things that we see is that you gave a guy a $70,000 gave him a raise at the beginning of the year with a new contract, and then 6 months later you fire him with a severance pay. It doesn't make sense to us taxpayers why this is happening. The second thing that I'm concerned about is the road to nowhere. You know, is this council actually promoting the industrial park because you spent a lot of money putting in the road in the industrial park with new lighting? You had Consumers Power power up that lighting triple time on a Sunday, you know, I think it was on a Sunday of Christmas Eve that you had Consumers Power putting the power to it. Something isn't making sense to us as taxpayers why this is all happening. The $41,000 is an issue that is riling up a lot of my neighborhood. Questions?
Questions, answers? Do you want answers?
Yes, we would like
Okay.
answers. We would
The
like public
reason-
answers.
Well, the reason Chesaning knows what happened over there is because the person that was, I think she was fired, I'm not sure.
Yes,
I
she
think
was.
She chose to have an open meeting about it. That's why they know everything that happened. What happened here, he was not fired. We went into a closed session, and when you enter a closed session, nothing can come out with it. All you can come out is what you decided, and that's what we did. And if you wanna know what we decided, all you have to do is listen to the recordings of the meeting online. You'll see everything that we decided.
Well, we know
And then as far as
why-
the industrial park goes, we had money in the industrial park, and it was called an LDFA, Local Development Finance Authority. It ran out last year. And we had, how much money did we have in there?
Not quite 500,000, 400,000 plus.
$400,000, and it had to be spent or given back, so we spent it. And we spent it,
And it has
on-
to be spent a specific way.
Yeah,
it can only be spent in the
In that
industrial
park.
park, on the industrial park.
You know-
So we
you know-
did that.
You know, you wanna know how it sounds to us? 3 years ago, you increased the tax rate. Didn't have a vote, you were authorized new millages, and we were told as taxpayers that, as soon as the government was going, or the state government was going to reinstate, the gas funding taxes, the tax increase that we were going to receive and have received, you know, was going to be basically put back to the original tax
No.
rate. That's what we were told.
No, it's not what you were told. It's
I
not what
wish you- you
happened,
know,
and
you
it's
know,
not what you were told.
It was the last meeting of Hal Mead's, tenure.
We never
here.
said we were taking that back.
Let me continue.
Okay.
The last, and again, I'm talking, you know, for myself, but also for some of my neighbors.
Well, they can
And,
hear when we talk.
so we're seeing that someone's raising our property taxes to pay for road improvements. You build a road to nowhere, and it was told to us that that road to nowhere was to better the chances of getting people to come in and buy lots in the park. Is anybody on this council or anybody, you know, promoting that park so we can start getting some revenue for this money that we spent?
The council doesn't promote it.
We
but
don't-
The village manager does.
Well, someone paid for it, you know, that's the thing, someone paid for that road there, and, you know, to improve the chances of getting some residents into the
Look.
industrial park.
Matt was working with the MML and what was it?
Saginaw Futures.
Saginaw Futures, and they have it out there that we have the Boatworks property, we have all them lots there. There's nothing more we can do. But now on the other part, you got $500,000. You want this, and you want that, but you can only spend it on this, which makes you look terrible. What are you gonna do with it? You gonna give it up, or are you gonna spend it on that and take a chance?
Well, as the
What are you
government,
gonna do?
as the government would do it, they spend it. As a business person, basically, I would work around it and
How
get it
could you
done.
work
can't-
around
you
it?
can't work
You
around
cannot
it.
do that.
Okay,
This is
well,
a
let
run
me-
by
let me-
business.
Well, let me continue with,
You
with the
cannot work
scenario
around it.
about
You cannot
3
work
years
around it.
ago.
You had to give it back.
3 years ago, we, and, you know, Christine, you remember the millage increases we've got.
They were for streets.
They were for
Major
street
and local
improvements.
streets.
Hell,
That
me-
was not a major or local street improvement.
Hal Mead told us that North Main was high on the priority list. I hope Spicer is listening, but you know, that North Main was going to be high on the priority list of getting that road improved. Now, when the new guy came in, everything went to hell, because, again, I ride up and down that street on my bike every day, and it's getting worse and worse. There's a pothole on North Main Street that every year in the spring, it never gets filled. This year, it took, Facebook posting, to convince at least Matt to get somebody out there. Within a week, that hole on North Street did get filled. And Diana, you know what I'm talking about. We know as residents of St. Charles why our previous village manager isn't here, because the job wasn't getting done. We had a snowstorm 2 years ago on a Friday, and the roads didn't get plowed until the following Tuesday. And if you were going to go to church, you better had a four-wheel drive, because we had 10 inches of snow, and you couldn't get down North Main Street with anything other than a snowmobile or four-wheel drive. I've seen, the Department of, Public Works, come out and read my water meter, and have two guys in the truck, to read my water meter. And I can't figure that out. I know it's not your responsibility. This is the prior, the prior regime. The prior regime, basically two guys were coming in, it looked like right after lunch, and they're, basically driving up my driveway and taking their good old time, while the rest of the things in the village were being ignored. I'm frustrated, my neighbors are frustrated, I'm glad that you at least listened to me politely, and that's where it's at.
Okay. But I do want you to know that the increase in the taxes were for local streets, so that when we pave a street, the person who lives on that street does not have to pay for it anymore. We now have this fund set up, and actually Matt Lane did this. This was not something that Helmead did. And so from now on, if we would have decided to pave your road, you would have paid for it. You would have split it with the cost of the person across the street.
That's why we had a millage increase.
Yes, so I'm telling you, because of that millage increase, you won't have to pay for that anymore. It's being paid in a
Well, we,
lump sum.
22 years ago, we didn't pay for it then either.
Oh, yes, you did.
No, you didn't, because I did a good job. This is. We
That wasn't 22
paved
years
all
ago.
the streets in town and didn't charge anybody anything. That's called
Okay.
excellent money management.
When is
But you can't
North
do that
Main Street
anymore
gonna
because,
get paved? And
well,
let's
I
put
don't
it
know,
on-
because we don't have the list of.
Helmead had a priority list of what
That
roads.
list is gone.
That
Well,
We
we
need a new
understand-
list.
It's changed, because now we're gonna be doing
Water
water
at
and
the same
sewer,
time.
we're gonna be doing different things, and we wanna do the roads at the same time.
And I'm still paying the increase for the road improvements.
Yes,
We
we
can
all
do-
are, we all are.
It
Mr.
goes back
Westlaw?
to, and this is where everything comes from. And I go to the gas station, I go up to the bar, I go anywhere in town, and somebody says, what's going on with that council? What is in those minutes? And I'm like, did you come to that meeting? No, but so-and-so told me, or I read it in that, I
And you
read it in
don't
the
have
paper.
to come to the meeting. It's
Just
online.
pay attention, but everything that you're asking right now, the double, triple time for consumers, how many times
nothing
did
to
we
do with
beg and plead for consumers, and they say, we're coming when we want, and that's it.
That was a flat fee.
And
Yeah, it didn't matter
they
when they
show
did
up
it.
when
They
they
came on
want
Christmas
to
Eve
show
to-
up.
to
Yeah, but
water.
it doesn't matter to
But
us
it looks
in
to
parks.
you like we're paying these guys. But if you would've came to the 10 meetings before where we're saying, get them out here, and Matt's saying, I'm trying to get them out here. But so you don't know that.
You
So we
know-
are doing our jobs.
The funeral director is a little bent out of shape with the tax increases that she got on her property. And she appealed that to the Board of Review in Lansing, because of the increase. And not knowing the mechanics of how it got done, basically, she's looking at new streets with very fancy lights, mind you. Those lights are nicer than any lights in the village. And here, I look out my back window, I see the lights, there's no traffic back there, I'll guarantee you. And I see lights, through the woods that never been there before.
And I'll bet you 90% of
Yeah,
the
there's new
people
ones.
agree
You're
with
right.
you,
There are new
but
ones.
there is nothing we could have done besides what we did. That money cannot leave that property, it could not leave that block, it could not be spent. We couldn't say, let's change that light out downtown with that, let's just sneak it in. You cannot do that.
Well,
You can't.
I'm sitting here as an observer of the meeting, and basically you go through a vote, and everybody votes yes, and this and that and everything. Diane, basically complains about the water bill. Everybody says, well, that's the way it's always been. Well, let's not do it that way anymore. Let's look out for the taxpayers. What's the matter with writing a letter, have the president of the village sign the thing and tell, the water department that we're not happy campers here.
One
we are-
question,
we
what
are
are you
doing
going to do when they tell us, go get your water someplace else?
The squeaky
Don't punch
wheel
a valve?
gets,
Not in that situation.
well,
That's not how
the thing
they
of it
work.
is, it might not happen,
Don't worry
but,
about it.
as an observer, as a taxpayer, I'm looking at the council
understand.
as the responsible body, to get these things done.
You know what? You can run for council and be up here and make these decisions.
You probably wouldn't like that.
Oh, I'm sure we
Yeah,
will.
but you also
Yeah.
have to be here to see what we do.
Yes, I will.
And again, do I wanna get politically active? I don't know. But, I know my neighbors and we have a good time talking about the incompetence.
Well, and I would suggest that you come here and listen to what we do. I mean,
Yeah,
don't
but I'm
go
not
out there
saying
and
there's more of
talk
us
without
on here
knowing
than
what really
there are.
happened.
Where
Okay.
were you the night that Mr. Lane left?
I didn't even know what was happening,
You knew there was a meeting?
It was afterwards. It was afterwards.
You
The
still knew
last,
there was
the
a
last
meeting.
meeting, I learned about
And
it
if
from
you
my
don't
neighbor
come-
after it
If you don't
occurred.
come to the meetings, you're not gonna know what's the matter.
But the meetings are-
You can always drive by too. Any special
But the
meeting is
thing of it
posted on the
is,
window.
I'm just a taxpayer, and I wanna make sure that my money is
You're an
spent the way
employee.
it should
You're an
be
employee.
spent.
And may I
Taxpayer.
mention, we are all taxpayers.
I understand
Yeah.
that. I understand that, and that's why everyone should be upset.
So we're very
If
careful with the money. I mean, we really are very careful.
41 grand is a really, something of a contention there.
Well, that can be a contention.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I make a motion,
Oh, step forward.
Hi.
First up, I'm Adrian Cervini.
Mhm.
What is it?
A couple things, Adrian Cervini,
Savini. He's on the planning commission.
Planning Commission and Parks Board, couple
Okay.
things. We've not had a regular established meeting, and I know that new guy, but we've not had regular meetings, Planning Commission or Parks Recreation Committee for quite some time. I think that's important to have, regular established meetings. I mean, they're posted, they should happen.
Absolutely.
Even if they're only for 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is, it gives the public a chance to voice their concerns.
Mhm.
And that's not happened, and that should happen.
And it will.
I hope so, I hope so.
It will.
Okay,
I hope so.
it was, because we have an interim manager here,
Right.
and we don't have a permanent manager, and the plan is that when we get a permanent manager, that's gonna be probably one of the biggest
Meeting.
questions I'm gonna ask him, is about regular meetings.
Tell him.
because we've
You're gonna
talked-
get tell
yeah,
him.
We're going to tell him, yeah, that's why we say we're not gonna ask anymore. To tell him that we want our committees, our commissions to be involved, and we want them to meet regularly. And that is important, you're right.
And
That's
also the
excellent.
fact that all 3 or 4 the meetings,
The commissions and boards.
thank you,
You're welcome.
should be getting together on a somewhat either regular annual basis or something, so we all know what's going on.
Right.
Mhm.
Because there seems to be this committee and this committee and this committee, and
We've talked about that too.
And we didn't know what the committees did, so it made it even more confusing.
it does, yes.
And the new guy, as you refer to him, you're new here, so I'm gonna tell you, he was the village manager for 7 years?
1970. Oh, here?
Here,
79 to 83 or.
yeah, he was our village manager before, so he understands the village and.
I didn't mean new guy by
Yeah.
derogatory.
That's all right, no
Yeah,
problem.
so, yeah, no, he doesn't
Old
care.
new guy.
Old.
Old. So he'll get all the stuff done that wasn't done, while he's here getting us a new manager at the same time,
And
so.
how long will that take to get a new manager in
Usually takes
place?
3 to 4 months,
I'm hoping 90 to 120 days.
yeah.
So 3 to 4 months to get a new village manager, and then how long before that person kind of gets a feel for the positions?
He should jump right in with both feet.
Bingo, yes.
Okay.
And he is like, we need a DDA meeting, so he is having a DDA meeting tomorrow. So if there's something that you need to do, you will have a meeting.
Wait.
Just request it. If you feel you need a meeting.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah,
Request it.
my next concern, I don't think it's directed towards the council, is the matter of blight in this community. And I bring it up at every planning commission meeting, and just kind of gets, I think, shoved to the side somewhat, the fact that, we've still got houses that are burned out, got houses that are boarded up in this town. I mean, what is it gonna take to get this taken care of?
Well, at the last meeting, we were told by, the people who had cleaned up oh, it's Gom's house, I don't know what it is now, it used to be Gom's house.
The Chesney.
Over on Florence Street, the house that burned.
Okay.
They were here and cleaned that up, and they were supposed to go over to the Clark House on Bell Avenue, but that insurance company stopped them.
That is an insurance.
Yeah,
So
there
that
was
is
an
still a
insurance.
tear
It's
down,
in
it's
court.
still going to be a tear down, but they're still arguing with the homeowner over, probably a settlement, I would guess, or something like that.
So it's an insurance thing, but what about the other areas that, you know, are not cutting grass? And I don't wanna micromanage the community. by
Well,
no
in
means,
our
but-
ordinances, it states that, usually it's the manager or police will go around every so often, I think it's every,
Yeah.
45
So often.
days anyway. And if the grass is higher than 12 feet, that person will receive a letter
12
to cut it.
12
inches.
12 inches, 12 inches. 12 feet, some of it
Is it
is almost
12
12 feet.
Yeah, it says,
It's
Yeah.
12 inches, yeah.
Really?
That'd be high.
Yeah, then it has to be cut, or we will cut it and put it on their taxes.
I understand.
The blight part, I think he finally got the one across from the Catholic Church cleaned up.
it's actually
Yeah.
starting to get collections again, I
Are they
noticed.
starting all over
There's,
again?
there's,
He
That's
was
what
issued a ticket Monday.
Okay,
So it's something that's in process, Adrian, really, and right now, we're in kind of a limbo situation. Do you understand? I mean, it's.
I mean, as a
understand,
council, we
yeah.
ask,
Yeah,
yeah.
so as soon as we get things situated around, then I think hopefully we can get all this addressed. We're looking, Mr. Collison is part of Spicer, and they have assured us they will find us a good guy, okay, a
Mhm.
good lady, somebody good, okay?
Oh, thank you for your time.
9 o'clock.
Take your bedtime.
No, you gotta take a pill.
What's that mean?
Soap opera. Any other? Yes, sir, Mr. Mark?
I wanna compliment, you know, the new village manager or interim manager, that we saw a great improvement, you know, in the little amount of time that he's been here. I have seen it, other people have seen it too, so it's a testament of his experience, and hopefully we get someone as good.
Yeah,
I'm sure he appreciates that.
we can't afford him.
You could at one time.
We could.
After we trained him, everybody wanted him. Oh, shoot.
Okay,
Anything else? If not, do I hear me?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. It makes it a lot more exciting when people come.